Hello once again and welcome back to my channel, Mental Health with Melissa. If you're new here, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button for more content. I post new videos every single Sunday and Wednesday, and subscribing to my channel helps me get mental health information out there to our communities of color, and tons of free LCSW test prep for those of you that are interested in becoming LCSWs. I have a new LCSW test prep program entitled Social Work Study with Melissa that's listed down below in the description box, available for purchase if you would like to take a look at more of that information. Today we are going to be taking a look at a particular topic, and so we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. Today we are going to be taking a look at critical race theory. What is it? And why is it pertinent? So, and as it relates to social work as well. So let's go ahead and jump into what it is, because a lot of people don't really know too much about critical race theory, also known as CRT, which is surprising. And so I thought that this is a very important topic to take a look at, and as it relates to the LCSW exam as well. So let's go ahead and get into the definition. So before I read all of this, I wanted to let you know that this information that I obtained here is from this website here. So feel free to take a look. It's by the authors Rayshawn Ray and Alexandra Gibbons. So definitely take a look, because again, all of this information has been obtained from this particular article and website. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and read this. I know some of you are more visual learners, so feel free to read it if you want to pause it or read along. So critical race theory states that U.S. social institutions, so such as the justice system, education, employment, housing market, and healthcare systems are laced with racism embedded in laws, regulation, rules, and procedures that lead to different outcomes by race. Now, this may be already something that you're very familiar with. The critical race theory is nothing new. It came about in the 1960s, more particularly around the civil rights movements. And so if you know about it already, more power to you. If you don't, then continue watching. But even if you do know about it, I want to also go into detail about how it relates to the social work profession. So you're not going to want to miss it. In the part 2 video, we're also going to talk about a vignette, an LCSW vignette, as it relates to CRT. So activists and scholars who discuss CRT are not arguing that white people living now are to blame for what people did in the past. Now, this is what is, I think, really vital to kind of take note of, because it seems as though as a lot of the majority or dominant population sometimes kind of go to the fact that white people now are being blamed. And that's simply not what CRT is arguing. So let's read this further. They're saying that white people living now have a moral responsibility to do something about how racism still impacts all of our lives today. So it's still very present, whether you decide to recognize and acknowledge it or not. If you're living in La La Land or not living in La La Land, this is just what's going on. African Americans are still suffering from the racism related to whether it be police brutality or just in everyday sorts of systemic racism, all the way to individual racism. And that goes for other people of color too, including Asian Americans, Hispanics, and other people of color that have really been victims to this systemic sort of racism from our history. So policies attempting to suffocate this much needed national conversation are an obstacle to the pursuit of equitable democracy. So the supporters of CRT bans often quote Martin Luther King Jr.'s proclamation that individuals should be viewed by the content of their character instead of the color of their skin, but this ignores the context of the quote and the true meaning behind it. So it's more than just the content. There is a deep-rooted historical component of racism built into our systems. So what CRT proponents argue is that CRT should be taught in the schooling system to our children and to youngsters coming up in the US, because it will give them the opportunity, whether they're white, brown, black, or yellow, to understand the historical components of systemic racism and individual racism, and it should be addressed properly. So parents are worried about their kids learning about this in school because they do not have the capacity to address. This is according to the opponents of CRT. So CRT is taught by one of the authors of this article, who is a professor, and it's a theoretical framework that this person brings in, and students are alarmed by how little they have learned about inequality. So that already tells us a lot. Students at the higher academia and collegiate level are pretty much just really surprised and maybe confused about not having heard about this sooner. So they're upset by these huge institutions that keep them from learning about this. So teachers in K through 12 schools are not actually teaching CRT, but teachers are trying to respond to students asking them why people are protesting and why Black people are more likely to be killed by the police. This is really important to talk about. Ultimately, we cannot employ colorblind ideology in a society that is far from colorblind. Everyone sees it, whether they acknowledge it consciously or not. So definitely take a look again at this article, this website here by Rayshawn Ray and Alexandra Gibbons. It's a really good read and won't waste your time. So now I want to get into why CRT is pertinent in social work. So CRT is pertinent in social work because as people in the human service field, or professionals in the human service field, we are working with those that may have had a history of oppression, and we are there to serve social justice and advocate for, again, communities that have been oppressed. So actually on the LCSW exam, 25% of the exam covers human development, diversity, and behavior in the environment. So under human development, diversity, and behavior in the environment, theories of racial, ethnic, and cultural development throughout the lifespan are explored. And so that also has to do with the systemic sort of considerations of CRT. So we're going to go a bit more into this in the second part of this video, where I talk more about what that entails, and there's going to be a vignette, an LCSW test prep practice vignette question. So stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for watching. Tell me in the comments section below if you already know about CRT, if it's something that you implement in your work, in whatever capacity that may be. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, managing mental health matters.